Welcome to Soccer Morning on NASN. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Happy Friday, everybody. Soccer Morning underway. Weekend is coming. It's here, essentially. Maybe you've already started your weekend. One of those people that gets to work on a Friday morning, sits down and really just shuts it down right there. Nothing. Does nothing for the rest of the day. A little bit of gossip around the water cooler. Those still exist. I don't think I ever worked in an office where like people gathered around the water cooler. We had one. We just didn't gather. So it's Friday. There is one overriding story I'm sure you're all aware that will dominate today's show. There's no way around it. The sale of Chivas USA by Jorge Vergara to MLS is going to be our headline story. We will talk about all of the implications of said sale. We'll talk to Alicia Rodriguez from the GOAT Parade, the SB Nation blog that covers Chivas USA. We'll talk to her about the fallout, what preceded this. We actually had Alicia scheduled, I think Wednesday when we were out, maybe Tuesday, whatever. One of those days we were out. We had her scheduled because we wanted to talk about this rebrand rumor that had popped up. Los Angeles SC, Los Angeles FC. What does this all mean? And now, boom, bomb gets dropped on Thursday, and Vergara is no more. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Somebody said I should play on this show. I'm not going to do that. But we can all agree that that's the feeling for a lot of people around MLS, a lot of people around American soccer, and I imagine a lot of people that are fans of Chivas USA. Now, we get into the fallout here. What does this mean? What's going to happen? Now, the league has said a couple of things. One, we're going to be working on getting a local owner. Okay, it's fine and good. Two, they're not going to leave LA. And three, there's going to be a new stadium involved in the process of getting this team sold to a local owner. Now, I think there are several questions that pop up. First of all, why the middleman situation? Why is MLS buying the team from Vergara? Why not have Vergara sell the team to somebody local? I think that we can all sort of figure out here that basically means Vergara has no interest in going through the process in a timely or appropriate or whatever word you want to put on this fashion. The league's basically saying, we don't trust you anymore. So here's your cash. Please go away. That's what the league is doing. And at the same time, Don Garber doing the Don Garber dance. He's very good at this, by the way. Now, we're all going to call him out on it, so it's fairly transparent. But he does this dance. He manages to talk about how Chivas USA it was a failure, it hasn't worked, blah, blah, blah. And yet he still manages to blow smoke up the posterior of Jorge Vergara. Somehow he manages to still make it that Vergara is not the problem, that he wasn't the issue at Chivas USA. Here's the letter that Garber has on MLSsoccer.com. Dear Chivas USA supporters, I'm going to skip ahead here. He says, Jorge Vergara and Angelica Fuentes were part of Chivas USA's original ownership group and recently became sole owners of the club. That's the other thing, by the way. That's amazing. Vergara only got full control of this team 6 months ago. They were extremely passionate about Chivas USA. Or maybe it wasn't that long. Maybe it was longer than that. Maybe it's a year. Get my timeline right. They're extremely passionate about Chivas USA, committed significant personal and financial resources. 2012 they did it. And to both MLS and club, and truly believed in the opportunity to build soccer in the United States and Canada. We are very appreciative of everything they did to try to make things work in LA, and wish them the best as they focus on their efforts on Chivas de Guadalajara and their primary business, OmniLife. All right. I guess when somebody's rich, you have to be nice to them. Is that the rule here? And yes, Garber is, by all accounts, by all definitions, he's sort of a diplomat. He's really not going to come out and rip somebody like Jorge Vergara unless there's, well, I mean, I don't know. I would think that Vergara has met the level that would allow for some criticism. But here it is. He's not criticizing Vergara. He's blowing smoke while saying we're going to take this team in a different direction and we're going to find local ownership. And you'll find people, and our friend Luis Bueno, who has covered Chivas USA, is on Twitter. He was on Twitter last night. I was up late writing. I read some tweets. I maybe lost the thread, but it was guns blazing from Mr. Bueno. Garber is to blame and should be taking more of that. Although he has said in the past, my mistake. But I think he needs to, at this point, say, hey, look, this is an admission that it didn't happen, that it didn't work, that it was bad. There's some of that, but not enough to satisfy some people. And there's our friend Charlie Boehm dropped this yesterday. He said he's been hearing that MLS has been making front office decisions for Chivas USA for 2 years. 2 years? What does that mean exactly? Are we talking business decisions? Are you talking about player decisions? Speaking of players, Vergara, in the aftermath of the sale, goes on the radio and says all Chivas de Guadalajara players that are on loan to Chivas USA will be returning to the club in June, returning to their parent club in June. Now, I don't have an accurate count here. We'll ask Alicia Rodriguez about this. She'll know. How many loanees are at Chivas USA? How is that going to impact what Wilmer Cabrera can do with that team? I'm happy to see Wilmer Cabrera stay. I mean, what else is MLS going to do? They're not going to find a new coach now. There's no reason to push Cabrera out the door. They're going to hire a local executive. Will there be any money to spend? This is a one-year thing. We all agree that based on what we've seen them do and the fact that they got Cabrera in charge, Chivas USA is going to be a better team in 2014 than they were last year. Pretty hard not to be a better team, but they're going to be a better team. They might be even fun to watch on some level. But now they're gonna lose Eric Torres at some point. What's Bofo's status? What is he? Is he a loanee? Is he a fully signed player? I don't understand. What's going on there? Transfer. Okay, so he's gonna stay. So you got Bofo Batista. All right. So okay, a little bit of positivity there. But if they're only going to be run in this Expos-like manner, how competitive can they really be? I mean, it won't necessarily be on Cabrera. How can they really help themselves when the summer transfer window comes around? What are they going to do? They're going to stand pat because they're run by the league. Why would the owners? That's the other thing about this. The owners are the ones who decided this. You want to call them Garber FC? I'm going to transition into the fun part of this discussion in a second. You want to call them Garber FC or whatever? It's fine. Don Garber didn't. He may have advised this. I don't know. I wasn't in the room. But this falls at the feet of the rest of MLS owners. They're the ones who finally said enough is enough. We'll pool our cash. We'll take some of our cash from MLS, and we'll buy Vergara out because this is insane. This is ridiculous. We can't do this anymore. Staring down the barrel at another year of 5,000 people in the stands for Chivas USA games. Vergara has shown he is completely incompetent when it comes to running an MLS team. Doing slightly better at Chivas right now in Mexico. But they had a long stretch where it wasn't going very well. They're somewhat relevant at the moment. That's good. I guess that's positive. It's a nice step. So the Board of Governors, a.k.a. the MLS owners, are the ones who pulled the trigger on this, who decided we're going to push him out. And the other factor I think that is crucial to remember is that all of this was preceded by the lawsuits that Chivas faced. Now, that right there, for a lot of us, was grounds to push Vergara out. But I didn't know what the legality of his agreement was because he's not an owner. Let me make sure that we're clear here. This is single entity. You don't own the club. You franchise the operating rights. Okay? I don't like to get into the semantics of this. I think that we're all aware of how this works in MLS. If you're not aware, then okay, fine. Go read an MLS 101 piece. They're everywhere. Blogs have always been doing MLS 101 pieces. It's single entity. The league owns the team. The owner is buying operating rights. He has the rights to operate MLS's franchise in LA that is called Chivas USA, or the second LA franchise. So MLS isn't buying the team, they're buying Vergara out of his franchise rights. I think that in that simple terms are fine in this situation. Again, because we all know what the deal is here. We all should be aware of this. MLS operates on a weird, different level. So let's just forge ahead. All right. The other thing to remember is that the lawsuit was out there. Kalikman and Chronopoulos filing the two coaches that were let go by Chivas USA because they say they weren't Hispanic, Latino, didn't speak Spanish. Discrimination, which you can't do here. You can't do here. This isn't solo Mexicano. You can't do that here. Apparently that, and we reported this, when did we have this? Yesterday? Yesterday morning, Trevor had the link to a very short item on some radio station's website that said they had settled the lawsuit. Clearly, that needed to happen before this sale got done. And I think that that's why it's so sudden. I think that that's why we didn't hear any whispers of this until yesterday, until it dropped on our heads. Because that lawsuit had to be settled and out of the way before MLS could move forward. Now, the fun part of this is Chivas USA, per the league, is going to operate as Chivas USA for 2014. They're going to be run by MLS. Wilmer Cabrera will be the coach. They'll hire some executive, blah, blah, blah. But for all intents and purposes, they're no longer Chivas USA because whoever buys them eventually is going to rebrand them. There's zero reason to be Chivas USA after this, and you probably can't because Vergara's not going to let you, and why would you want to be in the first place? So my question to you, and I put this on Twitter last night, is what should we call them this year? They'll be Chivas USA on paper, but come on, we can all sort of agree that it'll be fun to call them something else in 2014. An interim name, if you will. A temporary name. The best one I've seen so far was from South Stands FC. SC? Which one? Let me pull this up here. South Stands SC, which is Twitter account for a Sporting Kansas City supporters group. Chivas TBA. I like that one. I like that one a lot. You could go with Chivas TBD, but I think TBA is nice. Get the A still in there from the USA. I had a couple of people, very cruel individuals who are clearly LA Galaxy fans, said they should be called LA Galaxy 3. Had the Garber FC. Somebody tried to make a Gerber baby joke by saying Garber babies. I don't know. Chivas MLS. That's pretty simple, pretty easy. If you have any, shoot them at us at Soccer Morning on Twitter, at Soccer Morning. Producer Trevor FC, says Stephen Brandt. I like that. PTFC. Uh-oh. We can't have two PTFCs in this league. Can we? Yeah. Yeah, I had somebody last night, and I'll have to find it, apologize, say that the club formerly known as Chivas USA, Cole just has that on Twitter right now. Somebody had it last night and actually said, here's the logo, and it was the Prince symbol. When Prince changed his name to a symbol. The football club, the soccer club, formerly known as Chivas USA. James on Twitter, I still don't get why MLS insists on keeping Chivas in LA. Let them get sold and move to San Antonio or whatever. I'm against relocation whenever possible. If you can help relocation, do not relocate. Do not. Now, James wouldn't have a team if relocation wasn't on the table for MLS because he's a Houston Dynamo fan. But I'm against relocating teams whenever possible. Now, look, I know it's just slightly different because, this is slightly different because LA already has a team. They've got the Galaxy. So why do you need to have Chivas USA there as well? Again, I think it's just a matter of once you put your roots down, in order for this sport to build the kind of intense and wide-reaching fan base that we all want it to have, we want soccer to be big, you can't be moving teams around. Especially when you have the history of soccer in America where the average lifespan of an American soccer club, and I'm talking about across all divisions, MLS included, and this is brought down by all those lower division teams, but the average lifespan of an American soccer club, professional soccer club, it's got to be like 2 years. Maybe 3 if we're lucky. If I'm being kind, maybe it's 3. Teams don't last. So if you're going to develop a fan base, I still think you need to stay there. And look, there are Chivas USA fans. It's easy to make jokes at the expense of Chivas USA. And it's easy to make jokes about their fans and say, oh, look, the 12 people that care are very upset today or very happy today that Vergara sold the team. I mean, let's not minimize the pain that the fans that are hardcore diehard fans of Chivas USA have had to go through. Tarps United. Okay, that one makes me laugh. James says Chivas USA has roots in history. No, they don't have a lot of history. They've been around for 8 years. But the point is that you can't you can't lay down those roots and get them to impact the culture of the region and get fans in the door if you don't leave the team there. Some people won't wake up to the team until it's 10 years in. And we're going to talk about DC United today. And I have some serious concerns about the future of DC United. 484, you're on the line.
Hey, Jason.
What's up?
I got a hypothetical for you.
Okay.
So let's assume Chivas USA is purchased by some big-time ownership group and makes it in Manchester City level what they're doing out in NYCFC. So we got two massive teams coming in.
Okay, wait.
Which team gets the bigger player, and which team gets the stadium done first?
Okay, so you're giving me a hypothetical where something like Stan Kroenke's supposed LA Gunners thing happens. That's what you're saying?
Not even Kroenke, just a big money ownership group.
A big money ownership group, but you're saying tied to another club like NYCFC, or just on that level of money?
Not even hypothetical.
Okay.
Not even an outside
gotcha
club.
All right,
just the ownership group that could bring the club to Galaxy, Red Bull, NYCFC level of prominence.
Okay, who gets the stadium done first? Is that the question?
Who gets the stadium done first? And with both these teams sort of launching and relaunching in 2015, who gets the bigger players?
New York gets the bigger players, at least to start. They've got a head start. I mean, who knows how much groundwork they've actually laid on that front, but they've got a head start. They've got a coach. They've got a plan. They've got Claudio Reyna. They've got executives who are tied to Manchester City and Barcelona, and they've got all of that networking done. So they will get the bigger players first. The stadium is a different question, and I could see a scenario where NYCFC is in Yankee Stadium for 2 or 3 years before we really know how they're going to get their stadium done. Hopefully not 3. That's pushing it a little bit. I think a lot of money, if you had a lot of money at a soccer club in LA, you could find a place. It might not be in downtown, but I'm not sure that's what you need in LA.
All right. Yeah, it just was interesting, your insight there. I mean, if they get the right ownership, I think this could be really big news.
Yeah, look, and I'm a fan of the idea of the right markets having multiple clubs. So I that's part of the reason I'm against moving Chivas USA. And I know San Antonio could be a good place for them, and I know San Diego might work if you could battle out with Tijuana for fans, but I just think that it makes sense to have a second team, not in the same building, get them out of that building, but have a second team in LA and create that local dynamic. I mean, I just find that, I think it would be fun. I'm not saying that it would be a huge boost for the league, but it would be better than a lot of the rivalries we have right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes down to LA's, I called you a week or two ago, LA is a DP destination spot, like Miami, like New York, like LA already is.
You got a point. You got a point, because the quality of the DP you're going to get, unless MLS decides to just open up the checkbook, the quality of DP you're going to get. We're talking about 2 or 3 very high quality DPs at a second LA club with money, if that's what Chivas USA becomes. Whereas if you move them or let them move to San Antonio, you're going to get, you might get some star. You might get a star, maybe. I mean, no offense, San Antonio, you're not LA.
You'll get like a Doniet Garcia.
Yeah, something like that, which is fine, which can be competitive, but from a marquee standpoint for MLS and selling the league and getting the name out there and driving attention from a crowded national sports market doesn't do them a lot of good.
Exactly. If they want to be a top league, we're going to need top players, and this just continues to raise the profile. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate that. Why can't we just call them the GOATs? That's from CYTHIM. I have no idea how to say that, dude. Brian on Twitter says, "Why can't we just call them? Can't we just call them the GOATs?" Sure, call them the GOATs if you want. Call them the GOATs. I had a joke yesterday. I made a joke yesterday without even realizing I was making a joke when I said that Don Garber was treating Jorge Vergara with kid gloves. I like feel bad because that's a terrible joke, and yet I accidentally made it because I was just using the phrase. Never mind, it's a GOAT thing. All right. So out of this mess, okay, because this is a mess. Let's not deny this. This is the best case scenario at this point. Get Chivas USA out of Vergara's hands. Let MLS handle getting that team sold. Let them handle pushing them in a new direction, sort of wash away a lot of the bad taste that has been left over from the Vergara regime at Chivas USA. Again, this is part of the reason I want to call them something different. Because, yeah, they'll be wearing Chivas USA jerseys, and the logo will say Chivas USA, and they'll be identified on the score sheet as Chivas USA. But I would rather call them something else, so we can pretend they're a different team, because they are now. They're going to be a different team. So why not call them something different? Byron Beverly Hills from Flying Soccer Dad. Okay, they won't be anywhere near Beverly Hills. So that's part of the reason I want to see that. But this is obviously best case scenario in a bad situation for MLS. Do you think they wanted to buy this club out from under Jorge Vergara? Varying reports on how much they paid. Was it $25 million, which sounds insane, or was it $70 million, which I've also seen mentioned? I'm not sure we'll know. And as I had a back and forth on Twitter yesterday, it may be that Vergara doesn't get paid until the team is sold. I don't know. I don't know if he would take that kind of deal, but it may be contingent. And again, we're talking about operating rights, not out and out club ownership, because Chivas USA by itself is not an individual business. I got to get the semantics down, guys. Can't use simple language when we talk about ownership. Got to make it complicated because it is complicated. We all know what we're talking about here. Out of this as well, and Don Garber, I listened to Don Garber's conference call yesterday, the aftermath of this announcement. He addressed some of the issues. He did address the Stan Kroenke rumors that were brought up. Stan Kroenke rumored to have purchased or did purchase land in LA and rumored to be interested in buying Chivas USA and moving them to this plot of land where he will build a stadium, and he will call them the LA Gunners. And they will be a sort of minor league offshoot of Arsenal, who Stan Kroenke happens to own. Garber shot that down, said Kroenke is not a candidate for ownership. He's not he is not one of the interested parties that they're considering at the moment. Now, that could always change, but that's the case. He also said that the league is not interested in an owner having more than one team at this point. Obviously, there is one example of multiple ownership, and it's AEG owning the Galaxy and half of the Houston Dynamo. And Garber said they want to get AEG out of the Dynamo if possible, and somebody with cash in Houston needs to step up. I don't know if there were some candidates for that, but somebody needs to step up and do that, get that done. Montreal Expos FC. I saw a couple of those yesterday. James Smith just now on Twitter. That's a good one. Montreal Expos FC, for the temporary name of Chivas USA. And the commonality there is league owned. Now that was the Expos eventually, the Expos moved to Washington. That was going to bring me to Washington. I'm not ready to talk about DC United yet. I'm going to work up to this one. But also out of this conference call, Levu Bird asked the question. Everybody's thinking it all the time. What's next on the expansion front? Where do things stand? He said, he specifically mentioned that they're making progress in Atlanta. Atlanta's done. This is my opinion. I'm not saying this from hard sources. But Atlanta's done. That's happening. That's a done deal as far as I'm concerned. I don't see how at this point, this deep in the negotiations, because they've been going on for some time, Arthur Blank willing to pay, willing to write a check and having big money, why that's not going to happen. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm saying it's happening. He also mentioned, and obviously they got Miami in play. He also mentioned Minneapolis, which I thought was interesting, and I will take my full punishment now, whatever it may be, for discounting Minneapolis last time I talked about possible expansion cities, and ranking them. My power rankings right now for MLS expansion cities, based on what Garber said yesterday, Miami, only because it's not done, so I'm going to leave them on this list. Miami, Atlanta, Minneapolis. That's what I've got right now. Because this is what Trevor's making me laugh. Because that's what he talked about yesterday. Those are the cities he mentioned. Now I know he did mention Sacramento. Sacramento is a much bigger city than people really think, or a much bigger metropolitan area than most people think. I find that one hard to believe, but let's see what happens. He mentioned San Diego. I don't know that MLS is going to willingly go into that market at this point and have to deal with comparisons between the two, but between that team and Tijuana, Cholos, and he mentioned Texas, which I think is pretty clear. He's referencing San Antonio, possibly Austin, although I think Austin is a long shot. So there you go. There's your expansion picture as it exists. I apparently gave Charlotte too much credit, which is my mistake. He didn't mention Charlotte at all. I don't think anything's happening there. Maybe that's what it is. Not that Charlotte couldn't become a candidate in the future. But there's your expansion power rankings, handicapping the expansion race here on Soccer Morning. Everybody loves expansion. People are mad for expansion. All right, let's see if I've got any. Trevor's putting his jokes on Twitter now. His rankings: Miami, Atlanta, San Antonio, Boston. There you go. Number 4 on the expansion list for MLS per Trevor Haywood should be Boston. Yeah, there's a shot. And I think some of the discussion yesterday, after this was done and Vergara is gone, Vergara out, fuera Vergara. It's all done. Good job, Reddit. Good job. Big ups to Reddit for getting that banner done, or the skywriting, or the lights, or whatever the hell it was. The question is, worst ownership group, or least interested, or most apathetic ownership group in MLS now after Vergara is gone. Is there any doubt that it's Kraft? Is there any doubt at all? Anybody close to Kraft on that list? I'm running through it here. Look, Tohir's got his team losing money. He's trying to get a stadium built. I'm not going to put him on that list, despite the fact that DC United hasn't spent a lot of money. 323, you're on the air. 323, you're on the air, man. What's up?
Hey, man, it's Elac. What's up?
Hey, good. See, and I didn't even put the call out, and I apologize. Elac, my man is a Chivas USA fan. We got Alicia Rodriguez coming up later, but I definitely want to hear from the fans. Elac, how you feeling today, man?
I'm hungover. You know why? Because I drank champagne all freaking night.
Did you, man?
Hell yeah.
Get the champ out.
No, man. No, seriously. I wanted to call because I wanted to share with you guys. You know, man, we in Los Angeles, specifically the Black Army, we pushed for this, man.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know that the league would buy us out, but we needed something, man. You know, we were like Tom Hanks on the island talking to, a volleyball, like help us out, something.
Yeah.
And, yesterday just came as a shock, as a surprise, obviously for many. And at the same time, we knew that the MLS was in the Chivas USA front offices. And that's how we've been able to get guys like Bocanegra, Andrew John Baptiste, or Mauro Rosales. There's enough there already, but we're getting guys from Argentina now, and the team's starting to look up. We just now need to focus on getting an owner that's going to be committed to us down here.
All right, Elac, let me ask you then. All right, so Vergara's out. He was obviously a disaster. It's good news for the club. The name is going to change. You became a fan of Chivas USA under that name. How do you feel about the name going away?
I love it.
Okay.
And in many ways, it kind of defined us. It's kind of like that Johnny Cash song, A Boy Named Sue. Like, he knew he was going to name his son something jacked up because he was going to bail on his son. So, what makes you, what doesn't kill you makes you strong.
Sure.
A lot of us, I'm not interested in the MLS until Chivas USA becomes part of the fabric of the league. And, I'm not a Galaxy fan. I'm not a fan of any other team. That team interested me in this league and the style of play. And I had always been a U.S. Men's national team supporter. Mm-hmm. And now I had a club that I could cheer for. But at the same time, it's been since 2004, 2005, the first year of the league. And it's never really worked.
Yeah.
It didn't galvanize the fan base out here, and it polarized everybody. And quite honestly, it just pissed off way too many Mexican fans for them to even consider buying tickets. They're just
I got so many questions for you, Elac. I'm sorry. I got so many.
Go ahead, man. I'll keep my answer short then.
All right. First of all, do you have a temporary name? Because I don't want to call you guys Chivas USA this year. I want to call you something else. What should we call you?
The scapegoats.
The the scapegoats. All right, I like that one. I got somebody on Twitter who says goats with no name FC, which I like.
Yeah, no, I've read that. Zombie goats is funny too.
Zombie goats is funny. I think that was our boy Gomez. All right. So what's the best case scenario for you at this point? Assuming the team gets sold, where do you want to see? Because MLS is saying a stadium, is part of this deal. Where do you want to see that stadium built? And if you could name them permanently, what would you put on them?
Well, to be succinct, I would go with Los Angeles definitely being in there. I love the Los Angeles Soccer Club shield because it personifies a lot of who and what we are out here in Los Angeles. It takes from the LA city seal and California flag. The colors are awesome, and football club's cool too.
Okay.
I would definitely love to see us be bought out by the Magic Johnson investment group.
Interesting.
They own the Dodgers. They own.
Wait.
I guess the LA Sparks now.
Does he have?
And then build a stadium on the USC now run land plot where the LA Sports Arena is.
Okay. All right. So USC for your site. Magic Johnson for your owner. I don't know. Does he have deep enough pot? He just dropped a lot of money on the Dodgers, man. That's a lot of money.
That's okay, man. We can play at Dodger Stadium.
Would you be really okay with that? Come on. Baseball fields?
No.
Right.
In all likelihood, I think this process is going to be a lot more tedious and a lot more stealth than many of us realize, because that's just the way this league runs,
Yeah.
And everything's kind of done in secret. So, I'm sure there's investors. I don't know how much they're going to be willing to spend, because you're asking a lot to not only buy into this franchise and then also buy into the infrastructure. You can't just build a team through an academy, but you need an academy. You need star players. Oh, and by the way, you need to build a stadium. And then real estate here in Southern California is super expensive, man.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I got asked the question, who builds a stadium first, the new ownership group of Chivas USA or NYCFC? And really, I mean, flip a coin, because in both of those cities, it's really, really hard. It's red tape and it's cash, and you got to have both. You got to get through the red tape and you got to have cash. All right. The last thing I'll ask you, Elac, if they do this right, if they rebrand right, whether it's Los Angeles Soccer Club or whatever they do, throw something else on it, they want to throw a Deportivo in there, do the Mexican fans who were turned off by Chivas, do they come back? Or do they come in? Do they start paying attention?
No, I don't think so at all. I think you could still market in Spanish. See, that's the thing about the Chivas name. It's a Mexicans-only brand, and then to bring it here, the Chivas of Guadalajara fans are like, well, why would we want to support that? We already have a team, right? So then you do that, and then you go, well, there's the Club America fans that are like, screw that, we don't support anything Chivas.
Yeah, I'm not wearing those stripes.
Totally. And then you have the Central American fans, which we have plenty of, that love this game, that live and die for this game. And Chivas is like, no, I don't want to support it. So there's got to be something Spanish. There's got to be something a lot more intentional and genuine about marketing to the Latino, Spanish-speaking fans here in Southern California. Chivas USA worked on it a few years, just never really got that formula down. Yeah,
it was. See, that's the thing. In retrospect, clearly it was a mistake. Clearly, you alienated too many people. And look, I mean, I think most of us standing, who are not in LA and are certainly not Latino, say, well, it's obvious. You pissed off all the fans of other clubs in Mexico besides Chivas de Guadalajara. And that's obvious. But there's all those other elements you talked about. The Central American soccer fans who are like, Mexican soccer's not our thing, dude. Like, what are you doing to me?
Yeah, like, look, if you want genuine Mexican food, you don't go to Taco Bell, man. You know what I mean? And you can't have that approach when you try to rebuild this team here in Los Angeles. I would say do the opposite and go after all the non-Galaxy fans, all the Euro snobs, all the fans of this awesome game, and let them know, like, look, this is who we are. We're in Los Angeles. We play in Los Angeles. This is what we're about. Mm-hmm. So I know it sounds kind of vague, but in reality, that's all the stuff that Chivas USA could not do. Mm-hmm. And even when they tried, the people got lost in the red and white stripes, the Chivas de Guadalajara badge on the Chivas USA uniform.
Like, made no sense.
There wasn't anything remotely Los Angeles related on there.
Yeah, it was Guadalajara's badge that you're moving to LA. Anyway, all right, last question. And you mentioned colors when you talked about that LASC badge that's been floating around that was apparently trademarked. Garber said that that's not an MLS thing. That was obviously local to Chivas. I don't know if Vergara was in charge of that process or not. But you mentioned colors. So, but I'm curious, like, where else can they go with this? I mean, Jimmy Conrad advocates for the Raiders look, which I'm down with, but I don't know how you feel about that. And, maybe we go with purple and gold, something like that.
Okay, man. I'm about to lose my buzz again.
Oh, no.
No, man. We're not going with purple and gold. You know what, man? I would love black and silver. I would love a non-corporate style, approach to this, and have the fans vote and all that. If it's not the two color schemes, or the one color scheme, or the two different badges with two different names, soccer club versus football club, whatever, it definitely cannot be another blue, another red. There's enough of that throughout this league.
Yeah.
Either everybody's red or everybody's blue.
Well, that's
black and silver would be great because it would be unique.
Okay.
I don't think it would bring Raider fans, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. You know what I mean?
No, that's definitely not. Wow.
Yeah, Galaxy fans are already afraid of Chivas fans anyway.
Oh, no.
So, don't need to scare them anymore.
All right, last question, because I got Madison on Twitter's asking me about this. I guess Dunny has advocated for the return of the Aztecs. Would you be down with that?
You know what? A year and a half ago, I was asked that same question. I said no, because you're replacing a rebrand with another rebrand. You know what I mean? And looking back at it, I would definitely go for that.
Okay.
And I would go for that in the sense that, hey, the Earthquakes are back, right? The Whitecaps,
Sounders,
the Timbers, the Sounders, and at the same time, I know Garber's kind of anti-NASL, man.
Well,
that's just the way it is with that guy.
I think he was. I think he's come around on that a little bit. I mean, clearly the Sounders and Timbers and Whitecaps are successful. You can sort of buy into that past. But here's the detail that matters when it comes to perhaps giving that Aztecs name to Chivas USA. Apparently, the NASL has that trademark right now. The new NASL owns that trademark right now. So you'd have to go to a negotiating table with them, and I just don't see them giving that up. I just don't see that.
Yeah, and with that said, I don't see an LA Aztecs USL Pro or any kind of, wanting to do the same thing.
Right.
I don't see the LA Aztecs coming anytime soon to Los Angeles. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree with you. All right, man. Let you go, Elac. Follow Elac on Twitter, East LA Chiva. He's on there. All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thanks for having me on.
All right, no problem. Bye. Good stuff. I wanted to get the fan perspective. Elac is probably the most vocal out there, always involved in the podcast and stuff in the soccer world for Chivas USA. One of the guys that really you knew was suffering with this process, was out there talking about how this team was being done wrong by Jorge Vergara. Finally, it's over. We can move on. Again, this is interesting from an MLS perspective. This is an admission of defeat on the part of MLS. This is a bad thing that needed to be done. I don't see any way around making this happen if there was no other owner lined up immediately. And perhaps this is just trying to create that bridge. And again, this gives MLS full control over the process of selling the operating rights to someone who will keep the team in LA, who perhaps can get a stadium done, who will do the rebrand right. All of those things are very important in order to keep this team, give this team a new lease on life, and hopefully make them successful. All right, let's shift here. 20 minutes until Alicia Rodriguez from the Go Parade joins us, and we'll talk more Chivas USA. Let's shift here to the news today out of Washington, D.C., and whenever it comes to stadium news in Washington, it tends to be bad. DC United is, and you've been following this if you're an MLS fan, certainly if you're a DC United fan, DC United has been trying to get a process done in order to build a stadium at Buzzard Point on the water on the Anacostia River in Washington, very near the National Stadium, the baseball stadium. Part of this process required a land swap. There's a building, a DC government-owned building in another part of the city that they were going to swap for the land to build the stadium. This is the city's involvement in this process. The actual construction costs would be handled by DC United's ownership, Eric Torhier and Levian. But this is crucial. This land swap has to happen in order for there to be the parcel to build the stadium. Today, the Washington Post's choice for DC mayor, the elections are coming up this year, Muriel Bowser, said she would not support the proposal to trade away the municipal center, the government building, in order to swap for the land. This is bad news. It's not only bad news because she's a candidate for mayor and because the Washington Post has endorsed her, but it's also bad news because she is the chair of the Economic Development Committee, the city council, which essentially means she has the power to say, yeah, we're not even going to look at your stadium land swap proposal. And if she's out against this deal, this is bad for DC United. I don't know. And then Charlie Bone said this on Twitter. Not necessarily a death knell, but definitely an moment. Definitely one of those things that makes you wonder if this is ever going to happen again. We've been dealing with this with DC United for years now. And every year it seems like, well, this has got to be the last season they can handle RFK. They're losing too much money. There's no revenue. They can't control their own revenue streams. Why would any owner in his right mind want to stay with this team? 571, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
What's up? Who's this?
Jose.
Hey, what's up, Jose? How you doing, man?
Not much. Just chilling. I'm from the DC area.
Yep, I see that.
And I was talking about this, and I don't know how I feel. Like, I don't think the deal's going to happen.
Doesn't look like it. No, it doesn't look like it, does it? I mean, and here's what I'll say very quickly. I don't begrudge Muriel Bowser to do what she thinks is right for her city. She's a councilwoman. She obviously, she's going to believe in what she believes in. That's fine. It's just the reality of it sucks for a DC United fan or any MLS fan, because I'm telling you, it's starting to feel like this team's not going to be here for very much longer.
Yeah, I think it's hard to build anything in this city. I've been here for like all my life, and the Redskins used to be here, and they tried to get a stadium, and they weren't trying to get help from them. You know what I mean? And
yeah, DC United doesn't have the options that the Redskins had. The Redskins got a cherry deal from the state of Maryland, got FedEx Field built, and while that's a terrible place to go, and I'm not a Redskins fan, well, that's a terrible place to go. It's still, it's an 80,000 seat stadium that they can use. It's an appropriate venue. No one has stepped up. Prince George's County almost did and then backed down. So no one else is going to step up. And that's where the Redskins Stadium is, by the way, PG County. There is no place in the metro area, no county, no local municipality that's going to step up and say, sure, DC United, come build your 20,000 seat stadium in our backyard. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think that too. And it just sucks because RFK is just breaking down. You know what I mean? Like, you're looking around and you're like, oh, man.
Okay, the only reason
terrible.
I say that I can't imagine that this team is long for DC without a stadium deal. The one saving grace for United fans is that unless there's a better situation somewhere else, there's no reason to move them. So unless Baltimore suddenly steps up again and says, we're going to build you a stadium, the Maryland Stadium Authority has approved, blah, blah, blah. Unless they do that, or I suppose you could argue that, DC United can move to San Antonio, DC United can move to Detroit or Minneapolis or St. Louis or many other cities that would be happy to have a soccer team. Now, again, those have to be better situations. I'm not so sure that any of them at the moment are better, but they could be in the future if somebody promises. I mean, we never had that before. We never had, even when San Jose moved to Houston, it wasn't necessarily about a promise of a stadium. We've never had a city say, come to us, MLS team, and we will build you a stadium the way that's happened in the NFL and Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared that happens because I don't want to lose my team.
Right.
But, I mean, if it happens, it's because like, it's just the best business opportunity for them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they have $1 billion owner. You know what I mean? You kind of look at them and you're like, why can't you just build the whole stadium privately? Like, look at Miami, look at New York. They're doing it on their own.
Well, I mean, look, I think that there's something to they have committed to building the stadium with their own cash, but there's never going to be a stadium situation unless we're talking about building out in the middle of the country where an owner can get the deal done and build the stadium without public help, or without civic help. You can't. There's too many pieces to put together. The reason that the city is involved in this process, yes, because they see the stadium as an economic driver, and Vincent Gray likes the idea of keeping them in the city and putting something in that area which doesn't have a whole lot right now. But the reason the city's involved from a DC United perspective is because they can't go to these people individually and get all of this done on their own without pressure from the DC government. The DC government can say, eminent domain, we're taking your land. Is that right or wrong? I mean, that's for you to decide. But the government has that power. Eric Tohier can't go to the junkyard owner and Potomac Energy, whatever they're called, Pepco. He can't go to these companies and just get their land from them without pushback or without them saying, well, it's going to cost you 1,000% premium on this. You know what I'm saying? So there has to be some government involvement. It's just at what level can we stomach it as constituents? I'm not a DC resident. I don't have a dog in this fight. I want to see a stadium because I like DC United and I like MLS and I think it would be great there. But again, I'm not going to come down on the councilwoman because she thinks that that money from whatever can go into different places. It's her job.
Yeah, I agree with that too. But I don't know. Like, I just feel like perhaps if they even try just a bit to help us out, help the team out, then I think that would be the best for the team. I mean, it would be the best for everybody. I think DC's been out and about, like, trying to help the community forever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they fired a bunch of people, like, early in the year for, like, ticket prices. It's really bad for DC right now. I think this year is very critical for them to win.
Well, I don't know that winning has anything to do with the future of DC United in Washington. Thanks for the call, Josue. I appreciate it, man.
All right. Take care.
Jonathan Tannewald, Philly.com. Mr. Tannewald, what's up? Jonathan, can you hear me? Do you have your microphone on?
There, let's try that.
There you go.
Let me throw another matchstick in this as somebody who grew up in D.C. and still follows D.C. politics pretty closely. If this gets cast as a public education versus soccer stadium debate, right, D.C. United is in big trouble.
Oh, absolutely. And I didn't mention that Ms. Bowser has mentioned that she would prefer to see money go into middle schools. Now, I think you said this on Twitter. You could conceivably be for let's direct some money to middle schools and improve those, and let's figure out the stadium thing. But she's obviously drawn a line in the sand, and I'm not deep enough in DC politics to know if that's a zero-sum equation or not.
It's in most places.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. Yeah, and I can't imagine it is in DC, but at least publicly. And remember, she's running for mayor. She's going to say, and I imagine that improve our schools, which has been a DC issue forever, is more popular and is going to garner her more support than, hey, I want to build a soccer stadium.
And the incumbent who she's running against, and it's not often, by the way, that Democrats in the district vote out an incumbent unless he has criminal scandal hanging over his head, which Vince Gray currently does.
Right. His last campaign was not exactly on the up and up, and now it could be that could be bad. Now, I guess the save again. I mentioned the saving grace. There are two things working in United's favor, or United fans' favor, not necessarily the team, because I'm sure ownership would rather not sit there and deal with RFK for much longer. But from a fan's perspective, there's got to be a better deal somewhere else. Meaning the MLS would have to figure out where to move this team that would make for a better situation than playing in RFK in DC. And they would, you imagine that that's a fairly high bar just based on the history of the team there. And there's the fact that Vincent Gray could still win, and he's obviously behind this.
For now.
He could still win for now, or he's behind this for now?
He's behind this for now.
Right, because public sentiment could push against him and he could change his mind.
A tweet from Pablo Maurer, MLS-ist on Twitter. Hysterical to hear Bowser say she'd put DC United stadium funds into DC's failing schools. DC spends $30,000 per student, already over twice the national average. I get that, but this is going to be a perception battle, not a facts battle.
Absolutely.
As most mayoral races are.
Again, this could be all posturing on her part, and it's politics. And it may be distasteful, but that's a blanket you throw over the entire process, not just her. So if she's posturing based on public education, which again is one of DC's overriding issues and probably will be for a very long time, but as you said, I mean, this is a city that has poured resources into that area and still not seen the type of results that they want or that they would expect or that would push this issue out of the public consciousness.
And I'll say this too to people who are not in the Washington area or indeed not in the Northeast corridor or Chicago or big cities where this debate happens all the time.
Right.
This is going to get ugly.
Yeah, it probably will.
And don't let anything or any trash talk or anything else surprise you in what's going to come with this, because people out there will say, I didn't know that people could think this. Well, guess what? They do.
Yeah, I guess for me, and again, maybe a little naive, not naive, a little, maybe I wasn't necessarily believing that the league and the ownership, and even before the new ownership, had the stomach for this. I kept saying, well, this is the season that matters. This is the year that matters. They got to get the stadium. They got to get the stadium. Well, they made enough progress now that you kind of put them in a holding pattern. But if this, and we don't have an election, we don't have the mayoral. Okay, the primary essentially decides the mayor of DC. But
correct.
The official election doesn't come up until the end of the year, and by then DC will have played through a season, and there'll be this will be hanging over their heads again for a whole other campaign. And I guess it depends on whether or not there's a better situation somewhere else. But at what point does MLS and Tohir and everybody involved sort of say, you know what, we just can't do it anymore?
Well, and this is one of the questions that I have for MLS headquarters, and then I'll hang up and get out of the way. But they've gotten involved with Chivas USA and other teams. They were involved with, they had a big hand in New York City FC for a while. Washington is languishing. New England is languishing, as Trevor has put out there many times. We need to find out when they're going to start to really, even if they're working on this behind the scenes, when they are going to do so more publicly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right, I'll get out of the way.
No, one more before you go,
Yeah.
because you'll have some insight into this as well. This is a question that comes up fairly regularly whenever we talk about DC United and their stadium situation. From Tejas Footy. Would it be possible to completely tear down RFK and rebuild in the same location? It makes me laugh, and I know that's unfair because I'm aware of what the deal is and how complicated that would be. But for anybody,
does Mr. Tejas Footy know Dan Snyder?
Well, there's that factor, but there's also the ownership of the land, the fact that the city maintains it, but it's parkland. There's
federal parkland.
Federal parkland that the city, is basically allowed to operate under an agreement, a very old agreement, if I'm remembering correctly. And then, RFK is on the site. If it's not being used for a stadium, then it has to be used for something. It's very, very complicated. So basically,
the only bulldozer that can knock that stadium over is parked in Landover, Maryland right now, and it is owned by the Washington football team. Right,
the Washington football team, and they are the only ones with the clout to make something happen on the RFK site, and we would be talking about a stadium with a footprint big enough to wipe out any possibility of a DC United stadium next door. My opinion.
I wouldn't. I'm not. If they really were not going to put an NFL stadium there, then we could talk about it. But I think the site they've gotten, they want to put the DC stadium in right now, makes a lot more sense.
I agree, and I think from the city's perspective, it makes a lot more sense. But and Vincent Gray's behind it, and there are a couple of other council people who are on board. But then again, this story about Muriel Bowser says that there are some with some serious questions. All right, Jonathan Tannenwald from Philly.com, Washington, D.C. native, giving his insight into the DC United stadium situation. Appreciate the time and the call. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
All right, bye. So there goes Jonathan. A couple minutes until we get to Alicia Rodriguez and get back into Chivas USA. I haven't touched on anything outside of MLS today. I got a couple things here. Barcelona got charged with tax fraud. Did you guys know that? In the Neymar transfer. Barcelona charged, I may have mentioned this actually the other day. Judge Pablo Ruz charged FC Barcelona with an infringement against the tax authority relating to the purchase of the Brazilian player. And the club says the club's actions have at all times regarding that operation been in line with the available information, been fully compliant with existing law. So this is going to be a battle. Barcelona's going to be have their name dragged through the mud a little bit. And we've touched on this. The number for Neymar keeps going up and up and up, and there was money that went this place and money that went that place. And if I think if and we've already seen Sandro Rosell step down in light of this controversy, and rather than he claims to have done it for altruistic reasons, but I don't know. Producer Vince, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, Jason. I was gonna call in to ask you about why wouldn't DC just destroy RFK and rebuild on it? But
because it's not their land. The bottom line is it's not their land, and getting control of that land would be a very sticky process, probably even tougher than getting this land swap deal for Buzzard Point.
Yeah, I guess it's an unfortunate situation all around. Well, I want to ask you. I want to this was a rumor, right? About I think it would be amazing if MLS approached Vince McMahon to own Chivas USA.
Wait, what now? Sorry, I missed that. What'd you say?
Just imagine Vince McMahon owning Chivas USA.
Oh man, look.
WWE FC, Jason. He comes in every board meeting, no chance.
We wouldn't see that. Why would he need to come into a board meeting to no chance? I mean, if he wants to introduce himself at every home game, come out to no chance, or the team comes out to no chance, or the anthem of LAFC or whatever they call themselves, WWEFC becomes no. I actually think that would be a disaster. Vince McMahon as a soccer owner. I don't think. First of all, can you even imagine him having any type of attention span longer than a couple of seasons? How is that good for any club?
The man doesn't sleep, Jason. So who knows what's going on with him?
Yeah, he doesn't sleep. All right, Vince, got anything else, man?
No, man. I just wanted to lay that egg on you.
All right, man. Appreciate the call, producer Vince from up in Toronto, talking DC United again. This comes up every time. Every single time we talk about DC United and their stadium situation, people say, "Why don't you just tear down RFK and rebuild?" Let's just leave it at that it's complicated and that it can't be done, because it can't be done. There's also a lot of environmental issues in doing that. That's if you tried to rehabilitate that site in order to build a new stadium, it would cost way more money than it is worth. It would be exorbitantly expensive to do that. So in the meantime, we have to wait for the DC City Council to figure it out. And again, I have this gut feeling that DC United is not long for Washington. I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to see them move. I just talked about it. I don't want teams to move. I want teams to stay where they are. And we're talking about a legacy club here. This isn't Chivas USA, who never really got themselves going in LA and was always second fiddle to the Galaxy. This is DC United. This is the original MLS dynasty. This is a club that actually has history and tradition in a league where that's very, very difficult. To move them out of Washington, to me, would be a disaster. I think it would be a serious black eye to the league. Now, it may be overlooked in the long term because so many other big things are happening in Miami and stadiums everywhere else and blah, blah, blah. Big name signings. But it would still be a disaster. And you would lose all of those DC United fans forever. Forever. All right, let's take a break. A full hour of Soccer Morning. No breaks. Look at that. Amazing. Alicia Rodriguez from the GOAT Parade will join us. We'll talk Chivas USA from her perspective. The fallout of Jorge Vergara selling the team to Major League Soccer. Don't go anywhere. Soccer Morning.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
On the line with me now from Los Angeles, Alicia Rodriguez. She covers Chivas USA at thegoparade.com, the SB Nation blog. For Chivas. Are you going to have to change the name of your site? It just occurred to me.
Yeah, everybody's been asking me that, but I think I'm going to keep it classic. You know, we'll see what happens. I'll have to talk to the network overlords, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna keep it classic.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. I mean, we're not going to forget that they were Chivas USA, no matter what happens in the near future. But Alicia joins us, and again, we had you booked originally, Alicia, and my fault. Our apologies for being not on the air and not having you. But we were going to talk about the rumors of a rebrand, and then this gets dropped yesterday. Was there any forewarning at all?
I had a few people sort of telling me, you know, I think there might be some truth to the rumor that came out a couple days ago about from ESPN Deportes reporter John Sutcliffe that the league was going to be buying the team, but they were so kind of vague that I didn't really heed them. And it's only in hindsight that I was like, oh, they were warning me. But I mean, it was something that was kept very close to the chest. Let's put it that way. There was not a lot of chatter about this circulating, so it really was a big surprise, and I ended up finding out very shortly before everybody else did. So, I mean, this was really a bolt out of the blue, and I think that was sort of done on purpose to make sure that the rumor mill didn't really get churning.
You were ahead of the trademark of the two badges and the names at LAFC, LASC. That was your story at the Go Parade, and that was a sign that something was happening. But I don't know that it was really forewarning of this. And your sources had it sort of under the radar. The rest of us were sort of floored. I guess the question is, and I've already talked to Elak, a Chivas USA fan who is very happy to see this happen. But I guess the question for you, Alicia, is why did MLS buy the club or buy the rights rather than go directly to another owner in LA?
To me, it indicates they don't have another owner in place quite yet. And from what Don Garber said yesterday, they have been in negotiations. They have been talking to potential owners for several months. So I think really it got to a breaking point where the league was not willing to let the mismanagement of this club persist under the current owners. And so they stepped in and said, okay, enough is enough. We need to do something about this, even if it's going to give us a little bit of a hit with a league taking over a club. It's going to be worth it if we're going to be in control of this sale, as opposed to, having Vergara be an active party in the sale. Rather, best to just get him out of the picture entirely and proceed forward. So to me, I mean, that's a very strong indication that, the relationship between the owner and the league had completely deteriorated, and it was time to move on.
I think this is a very practical move on the part of MLS. As you said, if there was nobody lined up and you want to get Vergara out of that room for obvious reasons, then this is the right move. But this is a clear and tacit admission on the part of Major League Soccer and Don Garber, whether they say so or not. And he kind of said he kind of put blame on himself, and he's admitted to this not being the greatest idea. But this is out and out failure of the Chivas USA experiment, 8 years in.
Yes. I mean, in a lot of respects, yes. That said, I think that, one thing that's forgotten about this team is that on the field, they had 4 really quite good years towards the beginning. The last 4 years have been very poor. So that's obviously left those good times behind. People who are coming into the league new don't really understand, some of the earlier years. They don't know that at all.
Right.
And then, there is some distinctions, I guess, in this short history of this club. First year, pretty much a disaster. Those next 4 years, pretty decent. It's from what I understand, Vergara was not a very active co-owner at that time.
Okay.
Maybe not coincidentally.
Right. I think what we're establishing here, I'm sorry to cut you off, but what we're establishing here is that it's Vergara's failure, not necessarily the Chivas USA brand failure. Although, there are obviously questions over whether or not that was wise to begin with.
I think on paper, it did make a lot of sense. I mean, I know a lot of Chivas de Guadalajara fans in Los Angeles. I mean, it's not like I know millions of people, but there's neighborhoods in LA where you step outside your door and you see Chivas crests everywhere you turn. So it seemed like it was going to be a good idea. I think obviously in hindsight, that didn't work out quite the way that, was expected. I think the complaints about how that brand potentially alienated other Latino fans, other Mexican soccer fans has been, come to fruition. So that certainly, is a knock against the brand entirely. But I would agree with the commissioner that it was more the execution of, how this team was run. That seems to be more of the problem than the brand itself. I'm not saying the brand was not problematic, but I don't think that was the key problem. I think the key problem was the person in charge ultimately.
Yeah, I tend to agree. But at the same time, it makes sense to, and because Vergara's out, I mean, you have to move on from the Chivas brand now. Even that notwithstanding, you would want to sort of wipe the slate clean and start over. And I guess that's the question that most people are concerned about now is what's next. I'm kind of turning 2014 into a little bit of humor and saying we've got to have a temporary name for them, Alicia. We can't call them Chivas USA in 2014. But beyond that, 2015 and beyond, let's assume the sale gets done and it's relatively easy from MLS's perspective. What makes sense? I mean, there are a lot of ways to go. We know that those two names have been trademarked, although I don't know how those would transfer over from Vergara to whoever's owning the team next.
Yeah, I'm working on an article about that. I don't think that they're going to have any connection to MLS now. I think it was my inkling is that those trademarks were sort of a last gasp opportunity by Vergara to try and rectify the situation, buy a little time, that sort of thing. So there may be something with I assume there's going to be something with Los Angeles in the team name, but I don't expect those crests to end up being in contention for the rebrand, anything like that. Probably not the names either. So I wouldn't say it's a dead story now, but I don't think that that's going to be the direction that's going to be headed in moving forward. Obviously, we'll have to see, but I think the league is going to take the reins and obviously, they're going to trademark their own names and crests and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's great news for the internet. That's great news for all those graphic designers out there who now get a blank slate to mess with LA the way that they did with New York City FC. So we'll have fun with that. I'm looking at this post you've got up here at the Go Parade. The 10 lowest moments of the Vergara era. It is awesome. I mean, in a very bad way. It's just awesome. We've got the goodbye soccer football is here at the top. You got the Reddit plane, which was last season, not having a TV contract for most of last year, just the discrimination lawsuit, which brings me to a question that was not explicitly asked of Don Garber, but which seems to be the case that once that lawsuit with Kalikman and Chronopoulos was settled, that was sort of the last hurdle to getting this team back into MLS's hands.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it makes sense to make sure that the lawsuit is taken care of and not hanging over the head of the club or the league, especially if they're trying to attract owners. They don't want to have to deal with the litigation. So yeah, I mean, the news broke very quietly on Wednesday about that, and I only found out about it Thursday prior to the sale news. And then, and then the commissioner did indeed confirm that it had been resolved. He didn't say how, but it's over. And it was a pretty ugly situation, and something that obviously I think embarrassed a lot of people who follow this club and didn't want to be associated with that sort of thing. And on top of all the dumping that they get all the time, having a racial discrimination lawsuit, that your team is hanging over its head, isn't really the rallying cry I think that most fans want. How much
does this, because look, I mean, last year was very bad, both off and on the field. This year, it seemed to have been moving in the right direction, at least in terms of the quality of Chivas USA's team. And Wilmer Cabrera is a good soccer mind. He's a smart guy. He knows how to coach. He'll make them better. But how much of this sale to MLS, not that you don't want Vergara out if you're a Chivas USA fan, but the fact that you really don't know what kind of resources MLS will give this team, how much of that affects how people feel about this team going into the new season?
Well, it's a transition year, no doubt. I certainly am not going to expect a major turnaround based on the moves already made. I think there's going to be hopefully some upward progression, and that's fine. But I mean, this team had by far the lowest payroll last season, by $500,000, which in MLS terms is massive. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see what the salary figures are for this year, but based on the moves they've made, I mean, they haven't paid any transfer fees so far. So I don't think they're going to have a massive payroll this year either. So, I mean, frankly, that's kind of business as usual. Sure. And if that means getting rid of the major problem holding this organization back, I'm all for it. And I think that, it's not going to lead to trophies probably this season, but it's going to be the best step in the right direction this team has seen in a long, long time, maybe ever.
Right. Getting rid of Vergara is a step forward. Being under MLS's auspices for a year is sort of a backwards/side step. So you may end up moving in the right direction regardless. And I guess as a fan, you can at least stomach the idea of this being a transition to whatever comes next. And I guess, and I asked this of Elac when he called in earlier, is there a chance that, look, I mean, they're going to try to reboot as much as possible. It's going to be tough if they're still in the StubHub Center, which I imagine they will be. But if they reboot, is there a chance that they can grab the attention of those fans who turned their nose up at this team when it was Chivas USA?
I don't see why not. Again, LA is a huge area. The region is absolutely enormous. Tons of people. There's a lot of different directions they can go in trying to attract fans. And I mean, we saw the latest example was Sporting Kansas City. They rebranded. They were kind of a moribund franchise at that point, struggling to get people into their stadium, really, keep up the momentum there. They rebranded, had a new owner, got a beautiful, top of the line stadium, and look at the complete turnaround. I mean, it's people just love that team in that area. So, I mean, that's obviously the ideal, getting to a MLS Cup in a few years after doing the rebrand. But I don't think it's impossible. And I think, we're not in sort of a marginal market. This is a major market. And I think it's entirely possible that, they can attract fans, even those who are aware of the team and stayed away from it in the past.
We're talking about this with working on the assumption and believing MLS when they say that this team won't move, that they will still be an LA team. Now, clearly, there's plenty, as you said, there's plenty of room in LA for two MLS teams. But I guess to get out of LA, to get out of the Galaxy's shadow is important here. They're going to have to start over. The commissioner also issued an open letter to Chivas USA fans, and again, I said this earlier, Alicia. It's easy to make jokes, but there are Chivas USA fans. They have been suffering. We want to see. I would love to see them get a little bit of good news, and I guess that's what this is. When you read the commissioner's letter, did anything stand out for you? He made sure he went out of his way. He made sure to sort of praise Vergara in a way that I'm not sure I would like if I was a Chivas USA fan. They could just leave that to the side and not even bother mentioning the guy.
Yeah, I mean, if the roles were reversed and it was Vergara, he probably would have got a shot in, on his critic there. But I mean, I'm not really surprised. I mean, that seems like boilerplate.
Sure.
Thanks for his contributions. It's been great having him, working with him all these years. And what is he going to say? The guy ran this club into the ground and you deserve better. I mean, I think the main message around it was you deserve better. As fans, as the few hardy people who stuck with this team in really horrible times and, tried to see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So I thought that was actually pretty remarkable, really, that they even took the step to make that letter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a little bit, corporatized, but I think as a gesture to those supporters, I mean, that was, to me, pretty significant, really.
Okay. That's good to hear. All right, before I let you go, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you for a temporary name, one that you would like to use in 2014. I mean, if you want to call them Chivas USA for 2014, that's fine. Your blog's the Go Parade. You got you got everything working there. That's fine with me. I'm just asking if you would, like to make a suggestion on that in that realm. Any ideas?
Oh man, yeah, I haven't even thought about it.
Okay.
And I have been, since you started your campaign to rename the team this year, I want to know, what it's going to be so I can start writing with it, because obviously I write the words Chivas USA, dozens of times on a daily basis.
Right.
So it's really important to me to find out what this name is going to be.
Wow, come on. I don't expect you to follow my lead on this, Alicia. I should be the other way around, to be honest with you. If the Go Parade decided to run a campaign like this, and if you want to steal the idea, please go ahead. I'm not saying you should, but if you wanted to, I would absolutely follow what your community said rather than a bunch of, jokesters on the Soccer Morning Show.
Fair enough.
Right.
I like LA Goats for the time being.
Okay.
I have to give that to the Black Army. I mean, they were the ones who've championed that name for years, but, it's not Chivas. It's, a little removed, but has that tie to the team that's still in existence and has the LA in it. So
all right.
let's go with LA Goats for the time being, but obviously I'm not the arbiter here. Let's see what the internet says.
Let's see what the internet says. Yes, that's a good compromise. LA Goats. I like it. I think I might choose to use it if, as you said, Black Army behind it. Maybe I can get behind it as well. Alicia Rodriguez, she writes at thegoatparade.com on Chivas USA. For SB Nation, Alicia, thank you very much. I know it's early and you have a little baby, so go take care of your baby. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
It's all good. Thanks for having me on.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Alicia's excellent coverage of Chivas USA. Excellent. And hopefully we see more attention. I don't want to run down her own article while I had her on the air, but these 10 lowest moments of the Vergara era are fantastic from a, just from an entertainment perspective. As we sit here sort of looking at the legacy of this man, what he did to this team over the course of his own. And again, why buy full control of the team if this is how you're going to run them? I had that question last year. And again, I think he's had full ownership for about a year and a half, a little bit less than that, maybe a year and a couple of months. And he's done what exactly? Hired Chalice, treated this team like it was Chivas de Guadalajara, and he could run a discriminatory policy, because in this country it's discriminatory. In Mexico, hey, that's heritage, that's that club's history. Fine, whatever, that's great. Do it. Can't do it here. Lawsuits coming out of every which way. Let's see. We've got the adios hasta aquí. That's the goodbye soccer football is here branding that they used, which obviously they did not live up to that. Sending twice in 2005 and 2013, trying to make Chivas USA the explicit farm team of Chivas de Guadalajara. That didn't work. Vows to get team in MLS Cup final in 2 years, then has by far the lowest payroll in the league. Yeah, that's good. That's what he said when he took full ownership. We're going to be in the MLS Cup final in 2 years. Wow. Reddit rinse a plane to fly Vergara out during the Super Classico. I tracked that story a little bit. We ended up talking to Alicia about it, and then talking, I think, to Elac in the aftermath of it. He no-showed a game he promised to show up to it in 2013. He failed to have the local TV contract for most of 2013. I mentioned that. He blamed the previous owners for everything under the sun. Didn't call them out by name, but said it couldn't get any worse when he took control. It got worse. The lawsuit by Calicman and Chronopolis, and then sacrificing Paco, and the Real Sports debacle. MLS got on Real Sports on HBO, which is a serious journalistic endeavor. I don't know how many people watch it. It's not that popular, but it's a big deal. Brian Gumbel talked about MLS, and it was about Chivas USA and a discrimination scandal. That's not what we want. James on Twitter, since extra part of DP contracts is paid by the team, can Chivas USA even get another DP this year? No MLS owner will vote yes to it. I think they might if it was a reasonable number, but they're not going to get any big names now. No, they're not tacking on anybody. It's not happening. Not this summer. if Chivas USA makes moves in the summer, it's going to be squad players, guys who may make a little bit of a difference, but not expensive players. 414, you're on the air.
Yeah, this is Ray, and I just want to talk about Chivas USA.
All right, Ray, what's up, man?
I look at it as this team from a different perspective. I'm a Hispanic soccer fan, and I'm a Mexican soccer fan first.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, when it entered in the league, I had big opportunities. I thought we were going to get some key Mexican players, have a team that is Mexican-American based, and with Mexican stars to fill in the pieces. And I'm a guy, I live in a predominantly Mexican community in Milwaukee, and none of these guys are MLS fans. My biggest question is, how do we win over the Mexican fan?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how we do it in your hood, because I don't think that that's going to be easy. Partly because there's no team nearby. I mean, you're going to drive down to Chicago? Is that something that those guys would do?
No, yeah. Nobody goes down to Chicago.
Yeah, nobody goes to Chicago. You don't have a local team in Milwaukee, and unfortunately for Milwaukee, I don't see them getting an MLS squad anytime soon.
Well, I know we were not going to get. I'm just trying to get kids interested in this league.
I'm with you.
Kids.
I'm with you, dude.
And I looked at Chivas USA as the opportunity to get these kids interested in this league.
Well, I mean, don't you think
it wasn't Mexican enough for me?
Okay.
Mexican players, Mexican soccer fans want to see Mexican stars. This league is void of Mexican talent. And not only that, it's void of Mexican-American talent. The best Mexican-American players are not playing in our league. They're being featured in the Mexican league.
Well, that's a fact. That's a function of the money that Liga MX has versus what MLS is spending. I mean, I agree with you that that's a problem, and that's something that MLS needs to address. But in order to address it, MLS has got to pay Herculez Gomez the same amount of money he could get at Tijuana or Santos or Puebla or wherever. So that's a matter of money. And the league has tried. I mean, they've clearly tried. And Chivas started out with that plan. And we've seen what Chicago has done with Blanco, and they tried with Neri Castillo. We know Bravo has been in the
and they tried with Blanco. They got these guys into the stadium, and they got them a section, and now they kicked the section out.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to connect all of those dots without talking to people in Chicago, but that is the way it seems. That's certainly the perception of it. I agree with you on that. In
Dallas and Houston, you look at every major market city that has a large Hispanic community, regardless of it is Mexican or not, that we're not connecting to this fan.
I think DC did for a very long time. I'm not going to say that that's the way it is right now, but I think DC did for a while and had a very vibrant Hispanic fan base. And things have gone badly for DC all around, so it's not just about the Hispanic fans there. But look, I mean, again, part of the MLS has got to get better overall, period, and then that will help them compete for not only Mexican American players but Mexican stars. That will help them get a bigger television profile. Because look, I'm sure this is the deal with people in your neighborhood. If you can watch,
we only got one game a week on television. It's been 10 years. I look at it. This league didn't want Chivas USA to succeed anyways.
Oh, I don't believe that.
I could not follow this team in Spanish available, whether on the internet or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think I definitely understand your concerns. I don't think that it's that they wanted Chivas USA to fail. I think there were obviously a lot of bad things happened there. Vergara never really put in the effort it was going to take to make them successful. I think Vergara just thought, I'm going to name them Chivas. They're going to fly on the coattails of Chivas de Guadalajara, and we'll be fine. And he never really put the effort in. I think that's a major factor here. All right, man. Well, look, I guess we need to talk about this issue. If you want to give me a call back in the future when we touch on what MLS can do to get better, I certainly would love to hear from you, man.
All right, take it easy. Have a good day.
Appreciate the call. So look, I mean, I'm not Hispanic. I can't really speak to that. Being told not connecting with the Hispanic community. Is that the case? 562, you're on the air.
Hi, is this Soccer Morning?
It is Soccer Morning. Who's this?
This is Gerard calling from Long Beach, California. I'm
What's
a
up,
Galaxy
Gerard?
season ticket holder, and I'm listening to your show. I'm currently listening to your show now. There's a caller from Milwaukee, and I just wanted to point out that there's no need for ethnocentric teams in the United States.
I agree with that. I agree with you.
I am a Hispanic, whatever that term means.
Sure.
I don't know what that term means. I'm a Cuban American. I'm an American. I'm a U.S. soccer fan. And it's been a debacle. I've been to several Chivas games. It's 10 miles down the road from us, and it's like a desert landscape, barren stadium, and it's a beautiful stadium. And the ethnocentric thing, it just doesn't work in
No, I agree with you.
Our sporting environment.
Well, I think it goes against the spirit of what we do here, right? I mean, whether or not there are issues, clearly society has not evolved to the point we want it to evolve to, and there are problems. But at least in terms of how we set out to do things, this is why David Beckham should not be focused only on the Hispanic community of Miami. I mean, you have to be inclusive. And I know there are Anglo and Black fans of Chivas USA who are not Hispanic or not Latino, but those people have a tougher. It's not as accessible for them as it would be for a Hispanic, and that's you're just limiting your fan base, and it seems like bad business. Whether your idea is targeting, again, be inclusive, don't be exclusive.
Absolutely, and the fact that this is a melting pot. We live in a country that has many people from many different backgrounds, and to say, hey, you guys, we're marketing for you. I mean, in Los Angeles, really?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Really? I live in Long Beach, which is a very diverse city, and we have Cambodian Americans that go to Galaxy games. We have people from Central America. I mean, soccer is supposed to be about uniting people, not dividing them.
I absolutely agree with you, man.
That's my main point, and that's what I wanted to point out to the gentleman from Milwaukee, because, but my family's from Cuba, and I would never expect Mr. Beckham to cater to the Cuban community in my solely to the Cuban community in Miami.
Well, that would be, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead and stereotype. That'd be wrong, because all Cuban people are baseball fans, not soccer fans, right?
We're baseball players, which soccer and baseball are my two sports.
No, I'm just kidding.
Soccer's a lot more exciting.
I'm just kidding with you. Obviously, we shouldn't be painting with broad brushes on any of these topics, and there are appropriate ways to market your club that don't have to lean on stereotypes and ideas and notions of exclusivity or targeting. You can target once you establish your inclusive nature. You can target with individual campaigns. You don't have to play. You don't have to lock down yourself as the Hispanic fans club. I mean, that doesn't. Again, it doesn't make sense business. Well, I appreciate the call, Gerard. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Great.
We got to get out of here. We're done. It was a fantastic show. I didn't even get to talk about what's coming up in the Premier League this weekend. We really didn't get into Barcelona and the tax case. I know we did a little Champions League yesterday, so at least we got that covered. What else is happening? There's games this weekend. We talked about no games, and I feel bad about that. And now we're out of time, and I can't do it. But Chivas was a big deal. Chivas USA being sold to MLS is a big deal. Clearly, DC United in the stadium situation is a frustrating deal. And we'll be back on Monday. We'll talk about the entire weekend. We'll certainly talk Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, all of those things. Liga MX, perhaps in the future. Maybe we can delve further into this idea of MLS and what it's going to take to grab the attention of the Mexican-American soccer fan. I mean, look, if I'm a Mexican-American soccer fan and I have ties to Mexico and I have a club already, it's going to be tough to sell MLS to me. And not because MLS isn't worth my time, but because I already have a team and I can watch them. They're easily available, both in Spanish and sometimes in English. The reality of being in a diverse market where everything is there. You can watch the Premier League. We can't watch the Bundesliga. Let's fix that. Watch the Premier League. We can watch La Liga. We can watch the Mexican League. It's too much competition. That's not an excuse. That's just the reality. All right. Are we done? iTunes, ratings and reviews. Send us email. show@soccermorning.com, jason@nasn.tv. You can do that. Follow me on Twitter, DavisJSN. Follow the show, Soccer Morning. Thank you very much to Elac and Alicia Rodriguez and Gerard and Josue and whoever else I missed. Thank you for your calls. We'll see you guys Monday, right? Monday. Bye.